Benji. I think it's Benji. I love watching Benji play. Like Ryan said, kind of give him whatever he wants. We'll see what he picks here in our third game. Picks and bans on the way. Juggernaughts opt for second pick this time. Difference. Game number 1, not sure who had the choice, but they had the choice in game number 2 where they opted for first, and now they're changing things up totally.
They realize that this last pick for Benji is starting to cause the problems. They want to know exactly what he's going to pick and have that flexibility for them, their own counter pick.
I mean, variety is just as strong, right? Theoretically. I think there was a point in time where variety might have had that number 1 spot. I mean, it's close. Variety's just not able to dance with him so far. Given the counter pick, Ryan, do you think the Variety will be able to hang?
Maybe. I mean, it could be that the Juggernaughts really try and prioritize elsewhere on the map and keep trying to give Variety something to just tread water with. If they dedicate themselves to getting Variety ahead, Variety will get ahead. But it has to be dedicated effort, I think. I don't think that it's going to happen just because.
And I think Benji is throwing a lot of curveballs at Variety that he's not prepared for, specifically that last game, going for countering the Sobek with the Loki. Not going for Mystical Mail against the Loki as a solo laner is not ideal. Sometimes it's better to actually go for that selfish build and shut down the Loki as hard as possible. He started off 0-2, the Loki on Benji, but the problem was that there was no further attention onto him. You could have shut him down even further, maybe even push beyond the tier 1 tower by going for the Mystical Mail, by having some more jungle pressure, but that just never happened.
Thoth the ban here for the Juggernauts after the Robin ban first and foremost. Titan. 5 letters fit on that. Just write Titan.
Could, if you wanted to. We don't.
Tossing it up.
Yeah.
Making some change.
Hey man, that's maybe it goes off of their clan tags.
That's probably it actually.
Something like that.
Baron banned out. The Baron ban.
By first pick. Interesting. I figured Titan would be hunting for that Baron for themselves and kind of force Juggernaughts to ban it away. I do think that Baron is the strongest god in competitive play right now. I will never ban it in my ranked games because I think it's horrible in unorganized play. But I think that in these sorts of situations, Baron is too much damage.
Well, it does really well in the solo and support lane, talking to the pros when it comes to competitive play. And, you know, looking at the situation, maybe Jeff and Variety just don't have it in their wheelhouse. And they don't want to see it played by the green team. So Juggernauts time to ban right now. Thinking about if they want to deal with the Chernobog, thinking if they want to deal with the Freya. Naja, I think, is the correct ban as well.
I think, honestly, it might be the Janus. Okay, it's going to be the Athena specifically, but we haven't really talked about Zyrhoes too much after that second game, but his Thoth play was remarkable. Just hitting... He's just doing Zyrhoes things every time, and, you know, Janus is open now outside of the Thoth. I think this is your next go-to pick, but with Chernobog still up, you got to pick your poison.
Yeah, Naja. Naja right now, one of the more powerful characters in the game. This is what you should be banning in your ranked games.
Yes,
The ability for an individual on Naja to just single-handedly take over the early game, run the mid game, and then have your team so far ahead in the late game is really strong. And in competitive play, not one of the easier characters to shut down. Naja's got a ton of tools at his disposal to get in and out of trouble. Everybody thinks about all in, ult, and then you're dead, but there's so much more nuance there with immunity frames on the sash and speed from the ring toss. Even as a heal, guys, like the passive is very silly.
Especially when you actually don't pick up boots right away and instead you rush Bulwark of Hope. That's where you really start to see what you're gonna like. That's the top tier Naja plays that I think we could potentially see here.
Well, you know what? Sometimes you have to, in Smite, what the plan is.
You see, what happened was
what had happened was is that we started Assassin's Blessing boots into the Jotun's Wrath, and that's what had happened. But I, at the time in game number 1, I'm pretty sure I was 0-15 when I sold all of my items and bought a Bulwark of Hope.
Yes,
I was getting Neath. I was getting Neath ulted, blinked, Scylla ulted.
Yeah.
That's funny, number 1. That's objectively good comedy.
Didn't you ask the pros not to touch you like that whole game before the game started?
This is the worst part.
So this is what I did.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was like, look, you guys are going to crush. First of all, Chernobog and Freya for Juggernauts, probably going to crush.
Probably.
you guys are gonna crush. Like, you are better than our A team, right? Or that's what we called ourselves, the A team.
Did A stand for appetizer?
No, A stood for Allison. You should watch more Pretty Little Liars. But what wound up happening was, I said, look, you know, you're gonna beat us up. I want to just, I'm gonna go speed to red. Let me get the double kill in duo lane. And then, like, beat us up. Like, just
do you try to cloud in this
I did.
game?
I tried to clow. I was like, look, just let me get the double kill, and then y'all can, like, eat us later. And everybody said, yeah, sure, no problem. And then there were 5 people at my speed buff, so I went directly to red and then directly to the fountain once they crossed the street. That's how that worked. But I tried to get, like, on the map. Vinny was playing in that lane. I know how good he is. I wanted to impress him.
Yeah.
Doug in the solo lane also. There was a lot to you know, I wanted to go there and be Vinny's savior, but Vinny wound up.
Did you sleep last night after letting Doug down the way you did?
I had a hard time, honestly. Letting Doug and Vinny down that way was it affected me. It touched me in a way that I.
Come on, you can do it. Get a tear.
It's my job to put words together, and sometimes
a little bit of a choke here. Yeah.
Even the greatest are left speechless. I just
sniff
the way that
the
way that I left Doug down, and Vinny was just a little problematic. So I'd like to move on here.
Well done.
And focus.
No tears, but you got close.
No, I got there actually.
Did you?
I got there, dude.
Oh, nice.
I got there, dude.
Way to go.
I did get there actually. Freya, Chernobog, Fafnir.
That's scary.
Game 4. I mean, Cerberus, Janus, Naja. Certainly not a slouching composition here, but I see Freya Fafnir. I don't care what iteration of Freya it is. I'm already afraid. Chernobog's kind of nasty.
This looks like more of a mid to late game based off the first 3 out of Juggernaughts, whereas Titan can definitely flex early, hard. Naja and Cerberus packs a very powerful punch, and I think that as long as those two are together and rotating, especially with some Janus portals, some Janus thresholds, I don't think Juggernaughts can really escape that early game pressure.
It's going to be pretty tough, especially if Titan goes another early to mid-game character. If we see an early to mid-game solo or hunter, I think that's definitely a scary spot to be in, assuming Cerberus winds up as support. Susano is going to be the jungler of choice, mainly saying because if Titan come through and Naja just runs the early game by himself, which he very much could, specifically against his team, and has a little bit of help, all of a sudden objectives are crushed. It gets very, very scary. Chonga, how you feeling, aggro?
It's fine. It seems to be pretty good. I was just talking to Fine OK out in the lobby there about Chonga with the changes to Warrior's Blessing and how that affects her. And we were both saying that we thought that it was going to be a little bit worse overall for her than having Warrior's Blessing, having to go Mage's Blessing. But having that extra little bit of CDR, that extra damage to help clear the wave and help poke out your enemy, Chonga might be better than ever.
I'm loving the on her pick here. I think this is kind of exactly what I was looking for. A character that Naja can not I talk a lot about handoff, where there's an early game character like a Thanatos hands the ball off to the mid lane or the mid game character. Naja and on her, Naja's going to run the early game and then with on her run with the ball. 2 players at the same time. That's going to be scary. Osiris, can he keep them in check?
It's going to be difficult. I think Osiris alone can't do it, I think, but you add a Susano to that on top of it, and I think that you could potentially shut down Benji's Chonga, but it has to be very early. Like, immediately blue buff invade. Go from your own speed, ignore your own backs, ignore your own blue, try to look for that blue buff invade.
I like the Susano pick into the Naja. Naja, if you get wind siphoned, you have to ult in order to get away at that point, and Jetstream can easily follow you once you ult. And I think that's a pretty good matchup, but it does kind of concede early pressure in the jungle. Susano is not that good, levels 1 through 6.
Yeah.
After he gets his boots and after he hits level 6, 7, he starts to really pick it up pretty quickly, but up until then, Naja should really dominate. I'm really curious in seeing how Variety is going to do with an actual pressure god this time around, though. I mean, it's been the Xingqians, the Sobeks, as I mentioned. This is the one lane that he needs to try and get some sort of pressure, but it isn't that easy to do against Chonga.
It's going to be certainly a tall order. We'll see if he can come up with the goods. Orange and green, Titan, Juggernaughts. Who's going to win? Mixer, answer the question for us. Ryan, who's going to win?
I think I've got JeffHindla's team, man. I think they're sweeping it here today. They look really good.
I was wrong in game number 1. I was correct game number 2. Titans still on a roll, and I'm going to give it to them in number 3.
Well, if you were wrong in game number 1 and game number 2, I mean...
No, I was correct in game number 2.
Well, you were 50% is what I'm saying.
Well, sure. I thought Juggernaughts had the late game in game number 1, and then Titans were just on fire after that game.
Yeah, but he's on a roll, Tom. I mean...
Oh, that's what
he's
what
got
it is.
momentum. He's gaining momentum, yeah.
Just like rolling in the deep.
We're going to roll into the game. Finch and Taco.
We'll see if Titan can have it all, I suppose, as we move into Game 3. This is a chance for them to just take the whole tournament right here, right now. They're on tournament points up against the Juggernaughts, and they've got quite a draft to get that done as well. Benji with the Chang'e, Baskin taking Na Jha, perhaps one of the strongest gods in the game right now, into the jungle. They're in a good spot.
Funballer on his OG on her, by the way. This is a god that, for any of you who might be asking yourselves, who is Funballer exactly? Because I know that SK hasn't been the most notoriously highly rated team in Europe for the past Season 5, couple of splits, but Funballer is still a very well-established Hunter player in his own regard, and hopefully that on her gameplay that we might be able to see is going to be able to back me up on this statement, and who knows, maybe it's a complete and total flop, but either way, I'm excited, Finch, to see what's going to go down between Arkkyl and Funballer here.
Yeah, on her, Cerberus, that's plenty of pressure, and I think that PBM and Arkkyl have recognized that, so they're just going to fall back, let Arkkyl, or rather let Funballer and Jeff have that. They are going to be able to defend their own purple buff, so no invade potential here for Titans, unless they want to go for red, but Hurriwind's already rotating over to that, so it won't be a free invade. They have to out-secure Hurriwind and PBM.
This is worse, though, for PolarBearMike and Funballer. Isn't going to be able to connect on that impale. Thought for a second, if he managed to land that, then we could have seen some more possible aggression, but Arkkyl with the right idea every single time, just focusing on the lane clear, because that's going to be what helps them to get the lane pressure back in their favor.
Yeah, they've got it going in their favor one more time. Arkkyl already level 2 though, so is PBM, so it's favored them a little bit XP-wise at least, being able to just out clear, but Funballer right there behind him. We talked a lot about on her here on this, or rather Funballer on this on her, but I do also want to talk a bit about Benji and Variety over here in the solo lane. Benji on the Chang'e this time, and Variety in some ways could be considered a good counter matchup. Lord of the Afterlife, I mean, he's got some good tools to try and punish this Chang'e.
Something I really like that both teams did this time around, Finch, adding on to that, is that it feels like there's, oh, hold that thought, PBM in a whole lot of trouble. Baskin with a nice sash out, gotta make sure not to get rooted, but Arkkyl doesn't have the Vicious Barrage just yet to connect right there, as Zyrhoes now portaling back into his own tower for safety, and
Jeff's still level 1.
because he split the farm. They didn't get to finish the purple buff.
That's right, yeah, so Jeff really is kind of having a bit of a rough start to this early game. Even with the Baskin rotation, they could not find a kill, and Arkkyl was able to hold on to bead, so both sprints expended, and the rotation from Baskin comes out slightly favoring Juggernaughts, because Scream was able to farm during that time, and Titans really found nothing. In fact, PBM wants to come contest the purple buff.
And I like this from Mike. This is exactly what he needs to be doing. You've already cleared the wave. You don't really need to help your Hunter out any further on that one. You might as well heckle the enemy duo lane, because you never know, Mike might just steal the purple buff. It wouldn't be the first time we've seen him do it.
Or even just convince Titans to fall off of it, right? That could even be a bit of a win and make them wait till later. But either way, they out-secure with the Impale from Funballer. They grab that purple buff for themselves and send Juggernaughts back towards their own purple buff, which they secured the first time around and will grab the second.
Oh, Benji realizing now that Scream's over here, but he's got the help of Baskin to maybe back him up. Won't be able to successfully invade Variety's blue buff, but they could possibly lock him out from picking it up. Instead, though, their intention seemed to be to just clear out this wave and not really waste their time chasing around the Osiris, who Benji already has a decent amount of pressure over.
It does look like he's been able to get some nice pressure here over him so far. Benji's gone with the meditation, something we've seen a little bit more from solo laners, particularly these mages when they're over here to keep him topped up, especially because teleport maybe not quite as impactful as some of the others, so he's been able to stay out in front of Variety.
You don't really need the teleport on Chang'e. It can be a little bit risky running the solo lane without, but because of the fact that Chang'e has that bunny that she can send back to base, taking the meditation for some more mana sustain is going to prove better for survivability in the long term, because there's the Jade Rabbit heading right back up to the lane to deliver whatever Benji's heart desires.
Not late for the party, are we?
That was actually really good.
Yeah,
you should start doing your impersonations in front of F-Dot.
Oh, yeah, so I can show him what an impersonation sounds like, right? Tom thinks you should just get credit for trying one. His first blood comes out from Hurriwind in mid lane. Screammm working together there with that knock-up. Really not many options for Baskin. He didn't have beads available either. About another 10 seconds they were off cooldown. Well-timed game.
Baskin also just not even level 5 yet.
That's
and
true.
Struggling a little bit here. Probably because of the fact that Zyrhoes does tend to pick mid laners that won't necessarily have the initial laning pressure through space and time. Also going to be utilized there for a moment. Maybe was expecting Screammm to rush in with the jet stream and look for the wind siphon. Hurriwind getting the proc off of that first ability could have spelled death.
That's that might have been. I think that's what that was. He was just preemptively trying to get away. Had Screammm been trying to go aggressive, but he really wasn't. So it kind of just looks like an errant ultimate, but I think that was definitely the thought process behind it. As Baskin considering here the gank attempt onto Variety, but the tanky Osiris not going to be easy to take down for the Najah, not this time.
Baskin really just looking to leech a little bit of farm because he knows that Benji is still doing fairly well in his lane and that a couple of creeps won't hurt him. And if there's one thing that Baskin definitely needs to keep track of is not letting himself fall too far behind the Susano, because Najah is supposed to be the one who dominates this segment of the match.
That's a good point. We haven't really seen him be able to be aggressive or look for ganks. To be fair, they did have the gank attempt early on, I believe around the level 3 mark for Baskin in duo lane where they commit the sprint, but they couldn't find anything there. So that time when he was trying to get the ball rolling, Juggernaughts do a good job of slowing it down, and he hasn't really had another attempt since then.
And this is a bit of an awkward matchup for Baskin simply because of the fact that Zyrhoes has the Janus. Funballer looking for that jump escape. We'll have it canceled out, but nice Desert Fury to avoid the follow-up knockup from the Typhoon, and that's going to do it. Funballer all on his own. 3 versus the 1, and they still can't take down the On-Her.
And this is why you were singing his praises a little bit earlier on there, Taco. Funballer has been around the block many, many a time. He has been 3-man ganked on this On-Her many, many a time, and we saw that shining through from here. He did have to use the beads and the ultimate, but he keeps his life. He doesn't even back. He's not going to miss out on this farm either.
That lack of panic is what's really important to note, because I think anybody else in that situation, Finch, uses the beads right away, is spamming their jump and not really paying mind to utilizing that Desert Fury to avoid that Typhoon knockup damage.
Just excellently played there by Funballer. He will be able to back now and heal right back up after surviving that gank, and that kind of, in a way, evens the timings at least, right? Because Baskin ganks duo early on, gets nothing. Now there've been attempts for Screammm over where he doesn't find anything, and if Baskin can capitalize on that time when, you know, Scream's ult's down, he doesn't have that same pressure, maybe he can equalize things back out. We'll see if he tries to go look for anything or if he wants to hold off a little while longer.
And going back to my original statement on Baskin, even though Najah is meant to be a stronger pick for the early game, because Zyrhoes is on that Janus, which there's no fault in having Janus. Janus is still a fantastic god, especially in the hands of Zyrhoes. It's just that it's not the follow-up that you normally desire off of that Najah when fire on wheels.
Right, when you're bringing them back down into that such a predictable position, you know, you like a nice big raw ult or I'm a monster or something like that can definitely delete them. But Unstable Vortex, nothing to shake a stick at, and through space and time even could potentially be timed. So there's some potential, maybe not quite as easy to execute as some of the other combos, but there's a 3-man grouping here in mid. There might be an opportunity for Baskin to take someone up into the air anyway. He's going to loop around the backhand side. Hurriwind does get stunned, but he is going to drop out the ring bounce, but it's just not going to be enough. No opportunity there, and they fall back.
Nice little poke out there in mid. Forcing the escape from Hurriwind also means that they won't have to worry about Hurriwind trying to utilize that Freya ultimate on a more aggressive front. Still does a lot of damage, especially with Pen Boots online and the Book of Thoth. It's clear that there's going to be 2 different styles of play happening between Hurriwind's Freya and Zyrhoes' Freya.
And look at this trust they have in Funball, man. They have left him over here to his own devices. PBM has shown some attention. Screammm kind of poked his head in. They know he can handle it, even though he is a little bit behind Arkkyl. The rest of Titans are rotating more often and trusting him to stay here in this duo.
Speaking of positioning, Jeff not realizing who was right around the corner behind him. PBM going to use that Draconic Form right away, but thanks to that through space and time, PolarBearMike and Arkkyl both just heading for the hills and backing off.
They knew they could not stick around. That was Zyrhoes tremendously out-rotating Hurriwind, to no fault of Hurriwind, obviously. Zyrhoes gets around the map on this Janus in unparalleled ways. But we haven't had much chance to talk about this solo lane. Benji's been a focal point in all 3 matches, whether it's on the Warrior, on the Loki, on the Chang'e here now. If he can make it to this mid to late game, and it seems like he's going to be able to do so evenly, it's going to be tough to stop.
It's never much fun trying to deal with the Chang'e the later the match goes. It does feel like you're on the clock, like it's a race against time here for Juggernaughts, because while it isn't necessarily impossible to prevent a Chang'e composition from taking off, it's not exactly fun to handle. Funballer, Desert Fury, just trying to spam that damage onto Arkkyl. Jeff now looking for the collapse, will manage to find it. Ghastly Breathticks gonna end up doing it here. Nice paralyzing spit as well, just to get the initial burst of damage that he needed.
But Scream is here. He's going to jet stream in, has the ultimate. Beads come out preemptively, but it's just too much damage. Now can JeffHindla survive? There is a portal from Zyrhoes to come and support, and Scream had to retreat when he heard that. So JeffHindla will survive, but it'll be Hunter for Hunter. But Arkkyl lived to get the, or rather, Funballer lived to get the assist, and Arkkyl did not.
Rather unfortunate, though, for Funballer, because that could have been his moment to fully close the gap between himself. Speaking of which, Living Nightmare, Zyrhoes, he's got a couple of friends, and now Scream wrapping around the backside looking to dive.
I don't think that Zyrhoes realized that Scream was there and he's able to come catch him on the backside. Now JeffHindla in trouble as well. Stygian Torment to control PolarBearMike, so his life will be traded out. Great play there by Jeff to at least recognize, but a big rotation over from Juggernaut, from Arkkyl to come over, from PBM, and they grab the tier 1 and a couple kills.
But look at Baskin's mana. He doesn't have a whole lot of room to work with here. Trying to get a ring toss off, maybe. No, going straight for the Windfire Wheels, pulls Arkkyl up into the sky, and Funballer's waiting at the bottom.
They do have the pillar there, which Arkkyl jumps right into to try and avoid the damage. He is able to get away, but Desert Fury back available, and they get the return kill. But now Hurriwind has had time to walk over, and Funballer was there, I promise he was, but he is no longer. Yeah.
Hello?
My man is gone.
Honor.exe has stopped working.
Yeah.
That's all that I gathered from that moment. And Funballer probably knew he was dead by rights, used those purification beads a little bit earlier, and it felt a little bit forced on those beads that he used earlier. Maybe thought he had some small outplay potential against Scream, but it's definitely coming back to haunt him now.
That's right, yeah, he used them on that initial gank attempt from Scream to try and survive, but unfortunately didn't have them to get away from the banish from Hurriwind when he rotated over, who's now 2-0-0 and feeling very comfortable in his own right. I talked about how strong this Benji will be on this Chang'e, but Hurriwind just reminded anyone who might have forgotten that he is on Freya, and she certainly will be strong as well.
And Benji, we've kind of forgotten all about him over here in duo, but seems like Baskin's willing to pay a visit now to Variety. Zyrhoes up to boot, Waxing Moon just for the stun for the unstable Vortex, and sure enough, Variety is no more.
But a big rotation from the rest of Juggernaughts over to the solo side. PolarBearMike can't find the hammer onto Baskin, even though the tier 1 tower did come down. Hurriwind misses the banish. The sash will allow Baskin to close the distance, but a nice ultimate from Scream pushes everybody back out. So a good job, Juggernaughts, only losing Variety in the tier 1 when they might have been in a position to lose a lot more.
That was probably the best case scenario for Titans, because they not only find the pick onto Variety, they managed to take down the T1 tower there also, meaning that Benji now has the freedom to rotate a little bit more loosely around the map rather than being confined to that solo lane, constantly worrying about stripping away the tower. And on top of that, it just cuts off an escape route for Juggernaughts. I can't stress it enough. These Pyromancer engagements actually, all that thought, PBM's getting frisky in the mid lane.
Zyrhoes does make it through the wall with the portal, but we can't say the same for Baskin. Hurriwind moves himself to 3-0-0 as he finds the kill onto his opposing jungler. Hurriwind still standing strong as well, level 14 in the middle lane on this Freya. That is the real problem here for Titans, I feel like. Yes, Benji has the Chang'e, but Hurriwind has not been answered yet, and now Juggernaughts wants the gold Fury. They do have JeffHindla here to try and defend, but it's being bursted so quickly. Paralyzing spit a little bit too early, and Juggernaughts get the objective.
He almost had that, though, and that's what's still fairly impressive. Zyrhoes got that through space and time one more time. Gonna clip Arkkyl on the backside, but they've already made it underneath that T2 tower. They'll be safe and sound. Hurriwind, though, better watch himself, because If he gets caught out here, actually, no, it's Zyrhoes. Excuse me.
Laughable. As Zyrhoes pays for his transgressions swiftly at the hands of Hurriwind. Yeah, I don't know why he thought that, but he learned today. He'll learn here as Hurriwind puts the hurting on him. 4-0-0. Juggernaughts do not want to go down without a single win. Looking very strong here in Game 3. They're up about 3,000 gold here now, Taco.
This Freya build's only going to continue to get more and more disgusting, and Baskin, probably some regrets right now. Without that ultimate, he's just walking bait there for Scream to collect.
Hey, you know who needed some more farm? Hurriwind. A nice assist credit for the mid lane mage as they grab the tier 1 tower as well to add onto their list of problems. Now they're doubled up in the kill count to go along with their nice gold lead.
Hurriwind and Scream can probably make fairly quick work of this Pyromancer just by themselves, and Benji could possibly spot this one out. Will be looking to try and contest it. Does have that Waxing Moon available also, but this could be just too much burst damage for the Chang'e to handle, and he doesn't even get a moment to think about it. He's just destroyed off the map in an instant.
Yeah, the ban is just too strong that time. They caught him initially. As soon as he landed, he was controlled by Scream, by PolarBearMike, and removed. Now Zyrhoes yet again in a bad spot. I don't think he's going to make it through the portal through space and time, but only gets one portal out of it, and Variety is awaiting on the other side, and he ends up falling. But Funballer, perhaps in a solo, takes down Arkkyl.
Funballer does get a clean solo kill, but it won't mean that the rest of the map is going so well for his team, as JeffHindla also ends up falling there. Nice little double kill for Variety, gonna catch him right back up to that Chang'e. And already, you can start to see some of the problems really arising from this Freya.
Yes, this is very much getting scary. Level 17, not even 17 minutes into the game for Hurriwind here on this Freya. He's the furthest one out. No one else even level 16 yet at this point. 4-0-4. Just finished the Obsidian Shard because apparently my man was not doing enough damage as is. Now there's going to be problems even for JeffHindla and Benji when they try and come fight him.
It's just the preemptive Obsidian for whenever Titans do finally decide to get some of that magical defense going. It's not going to make too much of a difference. Polynomicon also. This is just not going to be a fun experience, I feel, for Titans. The only way they're going to successfully take down Hurriwind at this stage is to just utilize, or burn, I should say, a few ultimates on him. I'm guessing at least 3 to 4 ults. Keep that Freya down and out.
I'm with you, Taco. And they've got an opportunity to do so. I mean, the Purification Beads is going to be down for another 80 or so seconds. If they've got that timer, they have a chance. The pillar is good to keep Scream out. In fact, forces him to use beads through space and time. Claps him in the back, and Funballer puts one more auto in. That's enough to finish him off. JeffHindla trades stuns with PBM, but his a little bit longer. So now Baskin can join in with the sash. The PolarBearMike jumps out. A nice kill for Titans, but can they really capitalize?
Funballer putting in work.
Yes.
He's doing everything in his power to try and make sure he stays even with Arkkyl, because despite finding that solo kill, his team is still far enough behind that the Juggernaughts, their gold from all the global objectives, is just spreading across the map, and that means Arkyl's getting credit too.
Well, the 4-man collapse is on. PolarBearMike is able to jump back to the tier 2, but Arkkyl doesn't have a ton of options for where he wants to land. Oh, Zyrhoes, I'm sorry, my man. You're all alone. He does end up falling. JeffHindla dies to Hurriwind. He goes up to the Valkyrie's discretion, doesn't even pull anyone in. Now Funballer has to run for his life as the rest of Juggernaughts chase him down.
Funballer hoping to have that pillar pretty soon here, looking to buy him some time, and uses the beads anyway, just in case. Oh, beautiful play! Don't think that was intentional in the slightest, but they managed to catch Hurriwind up into that Windfire Wheels.
It's rare for Dragonic Corruption to make things worse for your team, but I think it just nearly might have. But fortunately, things work out anyway. Arkkyl finds that kill. Funballer goes back to base. Tier 2 tower now in the sights of Juggernaughts, and no real way for Titans to try and defend.
I was trying to figure out why it didn't even look like Baskin ulted Hurriwind in the first place. It's his build. He opted for the Glass Shield and the Wing Blade.
Right.
Pretty much full utility on this Najah, so despite landing a really nice ultimate onto the Freya, he just didn't have the damage to do much else with it.
Yeah, it looks like Hurriwind recognized. Maybe he didn't have beads at that exact moment, but if he did, he certainly didn't feel like using them. So now Baskin, unfortunately, not able to find anything there, and ends up dropping out. But I was wondering if this build was going to be enough damage for Baskin with the Glad Shield.
That might have just been an elaborate prank by Mike. He's like, I don't want to be ulted right now. You take this one for me, Hurry.
He drops the ultimate and can't be hit by Baskin at that point, so he goes right on through to Hurriwind in the backside. And I think no one saw that coming, but it still all comes up Juggernaughts. They're up not just 14-6 in the kills. They're about 7,000 gold as well. Got plenty of experience. Arkkyl can solo this gold fury and no one around to try and have an answer. Juggernaughts finally looking like they've got an answer to this Titans team, who have not lost yet all day, by the way.
And the Glad Shield pickup from Baskin, you're saying you were concerned about his damage output, and I think it's very clear now that there, quite frankly, isn't really any of that happening with the Najah.
Right.
But I think that this was just a little bit of a forced buy. It happened because Juggernaughts have been doing a great job at limiting the amount of farm that Baskin is actually getting by putting so much pressure into the mid lane. And in duo also, I mean, Funballer doesn't even have a T2 tower anymore.
And he's been playing very well, right? To no fault of his own, I feel.
Sometimes that's just the way it is. And Funballer doing his best to recover. I like that he's trying to hover with his team, but poor Zyrhoes, he cannot catch a break.
Does have to use through space and time, but holds on to both the beads and the Aegis. He has Chronos pendant, so he should have his ultimate back up before too long, but not all the way full cooldown like we sometimes see, but shouldn't be too big a deal. Arkkyl, though, not trying to rotate. He wants to keep pushing because he can always drop his ultimate to rejoin the fight and try and force someone else to come over and defend.
It's the instantaneous rotation capability. Zyrhoes, don't think he wants to fight.
I don't know why. That sounded like an Acme product. The instantaneous rotation ability. I don't know. That made me laugh. But you're definitely right. He gets there in a hurry.
And knowing that Zyrhoes is here to contest them, doesn't want to take any chances. I love what Baskin's doing here, trying to maybe force out this Living Nightmare. I think it's a strong possibility. There it goes. Baskin will manage to force that out, but it could be trouble for Funballer now. Instead, Arkkyl actually loses his Purification Beads and gets hit by the Stygian Torment.
Before he can make it into the wall, but it doesn't matter. Funballer's all alone on the back end. It was just the two of them up against four, so even with great control, they will not survive. JeffHindla and Funballer, the duo lane for Titans, both going to have to take a seat, watch the game in black and white for a while as Juggernaughts grab the Fire Giant.
Honestly, Finch, it's one thing letting a Chernobog go through in the picks and bans. And it's one thing to let a Freya go through right now even. But for both of them to make it into the same draft, I almost have to wonder if Titans are going to permit this to happen again.
And they essentially traded both of those things for the 6,500 damage that Baskin has for them right now, right? Like that was their first pick selection, was this Najah for Baskin, and right now it just has not worked out for them as Juggernauts are going to push onto the Phoenix on the right-hand side. Benji is about half health and has to play it safe. Being already brought down, and Juggernauts are on their way to the next.
Between Fafnir boosted attack speed onto Chernobog or even Freya, and Arkkyl also Vicious Barrage. That attack speed stim is insane at max rank. It's 60-70%, I believe, at max rank. It's similar to that of Artemis, and it is just so much shred potential, especially when alongside of the Fafnir. I think that is the only reason we see Mike on this Fafnir pick, is just to completely boost Hurriwind and Arkkyl.
And it's worked here for them so far. 13,000 player damage for Hurriwind, 5-0-5. As he's had quite a game for himself. Has the Band Cross to go along with the Polynomicon, so even a ton of lifesteal to make him that much harder to take down. 12,000 gold lead for Juggernauts. 7,500 experience. First time we've got to talk about a lead for them, it feels like, all set long. And I don't think they're wanting to let go of this one and give up this tournament. Not just yet. They've got some tools, though, on the side of Titans to try and defend, but it's not going to be easy.
I don't know if it's going to look pretty on those defenses either, because normally I'm right there with you, Finch. I think, you know, Phoenixes are up. There's still always a chance for that turnaround potential. But the way that Juggernauts have just been completely swarming Titans, there is no time to think. They're just reacting.
PolarBearMike jumps in on JeffHindla, brings him down to about half health, and gets all the actives out from Zyrhoes. He's had to use both the beads and the Aegis just to stay alive, so he'll be quite the easy target once he rejoins the fight. Tier 2 tower is down, only Phoenix in mid and left to worry about, but Juggernaut wants mid. PolarBearMike jumps in on the Benji, can't find the stun, has to fall back. Ultimate drop from Screammmmm on the back end, but JeffHindla can't find anyone with the Stygian Torment either.
And Jeff's only level 14, so he's got to be real careful about trying to frontline here. He'll get bursted in an instant by Chernobog or the Freya, as you can already tell. Down to 40% health now and still trying to stick around. He's got some nice heals coming through from Benji, but they might not be enough. Titans, they know Juggernaughts are ready to go.
Funballer is getting some nice shots, but Zero has been taken off of the map. Baskin is going to go join him rather quickly. Funballer, Desert Fury, not enough to get PBM as JeffHindla has to jump over the wall, but Variety right there to follow up. They don't even need the mid-Phoenix. It does finally fall, but now they're in the Titan room. Juggernaughts want to try and take game 3. It's up to Funballer and Benji to find a way to keep their hopes alive, but not enough hope here. Juggernaughts going to make this one 2-1.
And that was just... It felt like Juggernaughts finally woke up, and I don't think that there was anything wrong with like their past couple of game drafts, but the execution on their draft this time around was by far the best performance they've had all day.
Yeah, I think Chernobog and Freya will wake you up. I think that'll do it.
I also don't think that we'll be seeing both of those picks on the same team again.
Absolutely not. I mean, especially not if the Naja can't perform at a high enough level, because now the worry that I really have here is that they don't have to worry about Titans picking the Naja as much if that's how Baskin's going to be playing it in the future. I mean, it was underwhelming, to be honest with you, there in that game.
I don't know. I don't think that it was specifically Baskin being underwhelming so much as it was just Hurriwind building a lead so quickly that there wasn't a whole lot Baskin could really do about it. And he also invested into the Glad Shield, like I said, because of that lack of farm, lack of gold. He needed a really cheap item that would give him some decent stats. And in a sense, Glad Shield does provide a lot of good stats for Naja. You get a heal every single time you land one of your abilities onto an enemy god. You've got the 10% cooldown reduction and just a small amount of prots, but not enough to overdo it. I just think that, unfortunately, in the end, it ended up limiting his own power spike that normally we're accustomed to seeing happen with these Najas in the early to mid.
Fortunately, couldn't have the impact that he was looking for, but someone on the other team certainly did. Who was your MVP from that game? I'm thinking it's got to be Hurriwind, right, on the Freya?
Hurriwind.
It seems like it's just got to be.
They've been really clear-cut today on these MVP votes.
But some really strong performances, some standout performances, so we've been able to vote that one pretty easy. We'll get a chance to see what Mixer Chat thinks, though. Go ahead and vote first in the poll, and I'm going to get it back over to Tom and the rest of the boys on the desk.
Thanks, friends. Friends over here, too. How's it going, friends?
Pretty good, friend.
My mind is blown.
Yeah, dude. Okay, yo, all right. So we have to talk about something here.
Yeah, this is really important. Okay, so we were watching that game out there, and then FineOK out of the blue goes, Totally, did you know this? As you level Poseidon Kraken, you get knocked up higher.
No, actually, I did not know that.
Me neither,
Me
dude.
neither.
I had 1 million worshippers on the god, and I'm like, no way, that's gotta be garbage. I go and sit down in jungle practice, and sure enough, as you rank it up, you get knocked up higher.
Well, the more you know.
There you go,
chat.
It's noticeable. It really is noticeable. It didn't come up out of the blue, by the way. No, we were talking about Poseidon because I mentioned how aggro can't Kraken off of Thor correctly. So.
No, you used to not be able to deploy Kraken in the middle of Kraken into player deployable walls.
Chapo's here, the old jungler for aggro. So I mean,
he has other words.
That's what I'm saying.
How many ults did you get to fire in yesterday's game?
Hurriwind's your MVP. Great Freya performance here from the middle laner. Tyler doing well here. He always looks like he left his keys in the Uber. You know what I mean? He always has this like slightly concerned look.
He's a cautious fella.
I guess.
Concerned, obviously. Yeah. And nothing concerning about his Freya performance in this game, and this is why Freya has been such a highly contested pick after some of the changes to it. Just so much damage, and just to set up alone. People forget, like, that banish, like, sets up other utilities as well. The Fafnir hammer, you got to respect it.
Banish is one of my favorite abilities in the game. Old Freya, right? As you come down from Banish, you just have to take 2 shots. There's nothing you can do about it. It's really fun, but like you said, one of the better setups in the game. Once you've played, I mean, maybe a couple of hours, you have that timing internalized in your brain. You're able to launch abilities. Can you crack it off of a Banish?
Yes.
Just asking. I'm just asking. I mean,
I'm feeling a lot of tension here on this desk.
I'm not feeling tension at all. I'm loose.
I'm feeling some tension over here.
How you doing,
specifically.
Good.
That's good. You lose?
Yes.
Funball solo.
What? What was that throw?
So you guys know production in our ear just went Funball solo, and Tom, he could have said big burrito, and you bet Tom would have said big burrito on the desk right there.
Look, man.
By the way, nice play, Funball. Nice solo kill you got there, which is the replay we were throwing to, as production obviously told us in our ear.
Hey, man. You know, 2-1 right now. The Juggernauts are trailing, trying to take over the Titans. You shook me. You shook me.
You first of all, you took this fight.
Okay, can we restart?
Yes, sure.
Okay. Hello and welcome.